If you are ready to awaken to the truth of who you really are, to activate the power within you, and to become the fully conscious creator of your reality, you're in the right place. I'm Aleckson, I am the soul speaker, giving a voice to the power within. You're watching Aleckson TV, and today we're talking about self-love. Often when I talk about self-love with my clients, they ask me, yes, I know I need to self-love, but how do I do it? How do I practically show myself that I love myself? I always say self-care is the practical application of self-love. So, at the shallow end of this discussion on self-love, I'd like to talk to you about caring for yourself, about self-care, about bringing into your life ways in which you can show yourself that you care for yourself. Now, what you can do is, and I'm sure you're aware of many of these things, and I want to mention this shallow end, as I call it, so that I can then move into the deeper end of self-love and its opposite, unself-love. So self-care in this instance is to start doing things for yourself that you would love someone else to do for you, or that make you feel good, or that raise your vibrational frequency, or that allow you to mind your own vibration. Some of those things can be as simple as buying yourself a bunch of flowers, or it could be as hard as setting yourself a daily task of reminding yourself that you are enough. It can also be even just something as small as I used to do many years ago, of going to the chocolate counter at the David Jones store, where they always had these beautifully crafted chocolate delicacies, and I would buy myself 2 of those chocolates. That was my way of showing myself self-care back in those days. Pour yourself a bath with a glass of champagne and sit, take time for yourself. There are just so many ways, and I'd like to invite you to, at the end of the show, go through to AnnAlecksonTV.com. I've got a really special gift for you today, and it is a self-care dare card. You get to choose a card, and then you get to do the dare that's on the card. Now, let's move into the deeper part of this conversation and what I mostly want to share with you today. Many years ago, when I asked people, what's the opposite of self-love? Their response would be either self-hate or self-loathing. And what I want you to understand is that it's far more subtle than that these days. We're all on this journey now to self-empowerment. We're on this evolutionary journey that we're on, and it's time now to start thinking about the opposite of self-love as being something much more subtle, and what we, myself and my guides, like to call simply unself-love. So the opposite of self-love in this conversation today is unself-love. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means anything at all that you're saying or doing or believing that would have you believe that you were not perfectly perfect exactly as you are, and that you are not lovable, loving, perfect, enough, and all of those things. Because that's the truth of who you are. You are love. Therefore you are loved. Therefore you cannot not be enough. You are enough. You're perfect in your imperfection. You simply are perfect. And there's nothing less than that. And the subtle levels of unself-love, and this is what I most want you to hear from me today in this episode. Unself-love, the subtleness of it, shows up in any way that would say to you that anything that you are being or doing or having should be any different than it currently is. Do you see the subtleness of that? If you, for example, look at yourself and think that you should be any different than you are, that is a very subtle act of unself-love. If you in any moment look at your business or your life and think it should be any different than it is a very subtle act of unself-love. We're talking subtle energy here. And you're energetically drawing into you unself-love. When you have those thoughts, when you behave in those ways, when you think that anything should be different than it currently is. I'm telling you this today in order to have you to come to an awareness about this, because once you're aware of this, once you've learned it, you can't unlearn it. You can't not know what I've just told you. And let me tell you, when I first came to know this, it changed everything. Every moment of every day where I was finding myself thinking that I should have more money, I should weigh less, I should have something more in my life than there was, or I should not have something in my life that was there. In all of those moments, the awareness came on, the light switched on, and I was aware that I was very subtly unloving myself, which then allowed me to make a different choice. And after all, that's what it's all about. Don't forget, as I mentioned, to go to AlecksonTV.com so that you can download today's journal page, but also go to the link where you can get yourself a Self-Care Dare card and do that act of self-love for yourself today, tomorrow, for the entire week, for as long as you want to, and start getting into the habit of a daily self-care routine, whatever that is for you, because it is, again, always about you and what works for you. This has been the last episode of the first season of AlecksonTV.com. We've called this series Mind Your Own Vibration, and we'll be back with the next season very soon.